Now, I never played The Last of Us 2 because I don't own a PlayStation, but I did watch streams of it, and the story was awful. And none of the streamers that I actually watched, and I saw several playthroughs, none of them liked it either. And this isn't really controversial because the fans didn't like it at all. Now, of course, all your games journalists, they loved it. They thought this was Game of the Year, one of the best games they've ever played, which was probably everyone's first warning that this game really wasn't very good. And at 5.7, I don't know if you remember back in the day, but there was a lot of controversial ideas about how there were so many different reviews that all started with the same language and just seemed eerily familiar as you read through them. But turns out there was meant to be a multiplayer added to it, and I don't know why, but apparently some people wanted more. To me, this really is just like if you go into a restaurant and they give you bad food, and if you complain, they don't refund you. They offer you another meal. It's like, no thanks, I think I learned my lesson the first time. But Game Rant, they really wanted to know what happened to the multiplayer, because even back in June when this was written, they'd seen leaked footage of the multiplayer 10 months before, and it's never appeared. I think they learned their lesson. I think they realized this isn't going to work. We really need to step up our game to get any of these customers back, which is why I was a bit amazed when I saw this. We are aggressively hiring. They're actually still carrying on with the multiplayer plan. Now, I'm assuming that it's not this Factions multiplayer that they're talking about. I don't think Factions multiplayer would have worked. Respawning arena kind of shooter in the Last of Us 2 universe seems about as antithetical to the whole experience, the whole universe as you could possibly get. But they're clearly doing something. They're clearly committed to it. Now, why they need to aggressively hire anyone, I'm not really sure. It really sounds like they're just going out into the streets and screaming at people to come and work for them. I can only assume they played the game and don't want to be attached to the next one. It seems pretty sane to me. But there are various comments and ideas about what they think it's going to come to. Because people have gone through the various different job positions, and it talks about weapons player abilities, combat objectives, and everything else. And there's an idea that the Factions multiplayer mode may have been expanded into a full standalone title. I'm not so sure about that. My idea would be that they realized that that wouldn't work, and decided to probably take the assets from that and spin it into a new game. Similar to like what happened with Overwatch, when they realized that the RPG just wasn't going to work, it wasn't fun to play, so we're going to change it into something else. Maybe something that fits better into the Last of Us 2 universe. My first thought was like these people did. A possible battle royale. A survival kind of game with one life where your life matters and you can't just throw it away to respawn later. Really fits a lot better into the universe, a zombie universe, a survival universe. But that's not actually what their job positions look like. Mainly because of this one. You've got this where it says monetization. Of course it does. And economy designer. Now, economy designer, just the name kind of brings up ideas of what you expect. But I did go and look what an economy designer actually does. And it says here, it's basically on about the economy. Oh, what a surprise. Buying and earning mechanics. How long does it take to earn coins, where they earn it, how often, and where they can spend it? And the interesting part is down here where it says economy designers are important for many free-to-play games. Now, a BR doesn't have an economy. When it comes to monetization, okay, you can talk about the battle passes and everything else. That would all come under that, and you could argue that that's maybe an economy, but I don't think it would need its own job position for it. But an ongoing economy, like a player-driven economy, that definitely would. And you're not going to get that in a BR, because there's nothing that connects one game to the next. Each one is its own self-contained story. Now, one interesting part of this article is where it goes, one of the biggest challenges in interpreting player data. You don't get many written reviews, and that's good and bad. So we're reliant on indirect measures to give an understanding of how our games are performing. Now, one thing The Last of Us 2 didn't lack at all was player feedback. They didn't lack player reviews. The problem was they didn't listen to them at all, and when they heard them, they just thought they were wrong. Neil Druckmann was out on Twitter just openly antagonizing all of his customer base. So maybe, if that is an important part of this job, maybe it's good they're hiring somebody else for it. But when you do think that, actually, we're going to need this kind of monetization and economy designer, what instantly springs to mind, something that would fit into the universe perfectly, is a kind of escape from Tarkov mode, or maybe something like DayZ. I'm not going to say Rust, because building just, I don't think that fits. It was more scavenging than anything else. And so you've got DayZ if you want a more survival kind of base mode, But I really like Escape from Tarkov when it comes to this. Or Hunt Showdown, that would also fit, especially with the zombies. They could always introduce kind of boss-type zombies if they really wanted to imitate that kind of style. But both of those games fit perfectly. And I've got to be honest, kind of like the idea. It's not a problem I have with the universe of The Last of Us. What I have a problem with was the story. It was what they were trying to inject into it, force onto people, and how they misled people along the way. I think we saw from the first game, and we saw from the bits even in the second with Joel, the game designers actually had talents. They could make that game work when they chose to. The issue was when they tried to deliberately annoy the fans, when they tried to feed them what they didn't want, but what the developers wanted to force upon them. You will learn this lesson. You will do what we want, and you will like it. That attitude never goes down well. But it is a problem with the attitude of the designers, not what they actually produced. The game looked great. And so I think with a game like Escape from Tarkov, there isn't too many opportunities to force that upon the players. You're kind of forced into focusing on the gameplay. And I think that could actually be a good thing for these people. So they might be able to learn, even if accidentally. Or maybe the hit in the first game, maybe the player feedback in the first game did shock them. That could be why they stopped the multiplayer game. They've clearly realized that something with that multiplayer didn't work. It just wasn't fun. And for whatever reason, they decided that, yeah, we're probably not just going to force that out because the game has already received enough bad press in the first place. So overall, I think this is a good idea, and I quite like it if it was free to play. Something like a free to play Escape from Tarkov or Hunt Showdown could really take off, especially if they don't focus on the PlayStation exclusives. There's so many more players out there, and if you're going free to play, you probably need that audience. Of course, that brings with it a whole host of new problems. This is a multiplayer game. You've got anti-cheat like Warzone. You really have to take all that kind of thing into account. But if they do get past what they suffered with on The Last of Us 2, if they focus on the gameplay, if they put together their artwork, their ability to make maps and everything else look great, and turn that into an Escape from Tarkov, a Hunt Showdown, or hell, even a DayZ, I'd be quite up for that. And I think this game actually has potential. And if it doesn't, if Neil Druckmann gets his hands all over it, if they make the same mistakes they did in The Last of Us 2, if they think they can just force upon players something that they clearly don't want, but they want to give them, then hell, I'll make one hell of a video. But for now, that's it from me. If you liked the video, press like and subscribe for more videos in the future. And let me know down below what you think of this. Would you be up for an Escape from Tarkov style Last of Us universe game? Let me know by now. But for now, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.